It's sometimes really kind of press conference proper here. We'll cover it a little more methodically and in detail, but a lot of the discussion that a lot of you have reached out to me about was the flock and the use of the technology and how it was, I guess, used to bring the situation to an end or a quick apprehension of the suspect. Because of that, we'll go into a little bit of that, and like I said, I wanted to be able to share with you and ultimately our public what this looks like on our end. So to hopefully create a better understanding. I will stand for questions after the fact. And we will give it about 5 more minutes. It looks like our technology's caught up here, so we're good. We'll give it about 5 more minutes in case anybody is running a little bit behind. I said 2 o'clock, so I can start early. But yeah, we'll try to start right at 2. Access it now. And again, as we get to this part of the conference, I'll be able to kind of explain a little more detail and certainly answer any questions that you may have about the spinning wheel. I think we can go ahead and get started. Once this pops up, it's going to populate. I'll leave it up so I don't feel like you have to stop. But once it populates here on the screen, I'll be able to maximize it, do all those things if you need a better shot. Apparently it's going to take its time. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody. Good afternoon to you all. On behalf of Chief Failing, Mayor Bradley, the City of Lorain, we wanted to call this press conference, as I kind of mentioned earlier. A lot of folks had reached out for comment, specifically with some of the methods and technologies used to be able to investigate this incident, and we wanted to basically give you all a chance and answer any questions that we may have. We thought it important and valuable for our public to hear as well. So I thank you all for coming. To begin, on behalf of the Lorain Police Department, our condolences go out to the family of the victim. We'll cover a quick sort of recap of the actual murder itself so that we can kind of explain to you all the basis for our use and how we investigated it. How we came to ultimately make an arrest, or I should say our partners in North Olmsted with assistance from North Ridgeville PD. So on July 25th, Saturday morning at 7:55, our dispatch received a call that a 67-year-old male had been shot and was unresponsive in an address on G Street in Lorain. Officers went on scene, and it was apparent that the male victim, a Robert Lewis, 67 years old, has sustained at least 1 gunshot wound to the face head area and was apparently deceased upon arrival. Officers became aware from witnesses that a young male left the scene in Mr. Lewis's car prior to officers arriving, and they believed that it may have been a family member of Mr. Lewis's. Through interviews and investigative measures, officers learned that it was likely a 16-year-old grandson of Mr. Lewis who had been staying with him while his parents were out of town. Because information had led us to believe that the suspect had left the scene in Mr. Lewis's registered vehicle, we utilized obviously police information to find the registered any vehicles registered to Mr. Lewis and the plate numbers associated with those vehicles. We were able to confirm Mr. Lewis's vehicle that matched the description given by witnesses and the plate number on that vehicle, and we utilized flock technology, or license plate reader camera technology, to get an idea of where the suspect may be, and certainly where the vehicle may be. I should note that we received the call at 7:55 in the morning on Saturday morning. Our officers arrived just prior to 8 a.m. The information was given to our dispatch of the suspect's vehicle at 8:01 a.m. and flock camera inquiries, or flock inquiries, were used to show a path of travel that this vehicle had been taking. It showed that it had gone towards and was at certain times in the cities of Avon Lake, Westlake, North Ridgeville, and ultimately North Olmsted. Our dispatchers got on the line with our partners over in those agencies, made them aware of the incident, made them aware of the situation, and at 8:22 a.m., so now we are roughly 24 minutes after police arrival at the scene, we were contacted and advised that North Ridgeville and North Olmsted PD had that vehicle stopped westbound on 480 near the turnpike due to, again, a flock hit that identified the vehicle. Inside of the vehicle was the 16-year-old grandson. He was taken into custody, the vehicle was recovered, and then the investigation went on from there. Ultimately, information learned from the investigation and information learned from the investigators on scene caused charges to be brought against the 16-year-old grandson. That young man is still incarcerated at the, detained at the Lorain County Detention Home. It's our belief or our understanding that he was arraigned this morning on charges, on multiple charges, the most serious of which would include murder. As I mentioned earlier, the case is still, there are still some loose ends that are to be tied up with this case. There's still more work that goes into this case even after an arrest is made. And because of that, we can't always release all the information about a case. Sometimes we want to bring people in the know, but again, investigative integrity is important. I should have probably done this a little bit sooner, but I wanted to introduce Detective Sergeant Jason Oriano. He's the head of our detective bureau. He is not the case officer working this case. However, he is in charge of our detective bureau. So he's here as well, just to make sure that there aren't any inaccuracies in what I'm putting out here to the public. With that being said, I thought it was important to explain that during the interview, the juvenile suspect did confess, offer a confession to the crime. But one of the most important things that I think he mentioned to our investigators was, he said, "I expected to be caught, but I didn't expect to be caught so soon or so quickly." And I think that's why we are having this press conference today, is to explain to you that, as I spoke with Chief Failing, we have the utmost confidence in our investigators, in our investigative bureau. But the use of this technology was extremely pivotal in being able to not only solve this case, but to do it in such a timely fashion, to do it before anyone else could be hurt. Now, there was no indication that there were any plans on anyone else being hurt, I want to be clear, but when you have a 16-year-old person driving a car after having just committed what we believed was a homicide, it was important to get that gentleman in custody and to be able to bring some safety to the public. Again, do I think that he would have been caught? Probably. Do I think that he would have been caught in under a half an hour? Probably not. Okay, especially especially a county away. So, where does it go from here? We are still working with the Lorain County Coroner's Office. The juvenile prosecutor and the domestic relations court will have a case, obviously, moving forward with this young man. And obviously our detectives and our detective bureau will be responsible for creating a holistic scene and an account of everything, total 360 here on how everything sort of played out. trying to bring as much clarity as we can and transparency as we can to this situation. So with that, I did want to show our technology is finally up and running again here. When we conduct a search, I'm going to walk around a little bit just to maximize the screen here, and I'll come back over where the microphones are. As we conduct a search, as we conduct an inquiry on our flock system, we can have a license plate. I blacked it out for your purposes. Public record requests can be made, and obviously some of the information won't be blacked out. But just for your purposes, I went ahead and did that on this example. However, that black Chevrolet, we entered the license plate into our flock camera. As you can see, I'm trying to talk into the microphones here while looking, so I apologize. But as you can see, just below the vehicle, above that blacked out spot where the license plate would be, there's 7:25:26, 8:15:57 Eastern Daylight Time. The 08 indicates 8 a.m. And that shows you that at that time, that vehicle was on Stearns at Lorraine Boulevard, southbound. Now that's from the North Olmsted PD flock cameras, but when we run a flock inquiry, we can access anywhere that shares their cameras with us. We can see where that person is, or excuse me, where that car is. As you can see here, we can't see inside the vehicle. Or I guess it'd be very difficult to see inside of the vehicle. Different cameras may show different things, but ultimately, we did a search by the license plate, and this is what the search showed us. There were other hits that took place throughout that day as well. This is the one just before the apprehension was made, the arrest was made. So I thought it was important to be able to share with you all, to share with our public, what exactly this looks like and how exactly this is used. This, again, led to the apprehension of this young man. That's pretty much all I have as far as the details that we were really felt appropriate to release. I can answer certain questions, or at least hear the questions and give you the best info as I can here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Harry Boomer, Channel 19. Did he say as to what precipitated his alleged having shot the gentleman?
So I didn't go too deep with the detectives on the actual content, like motive-wise. We should say that there was no evidence of any kind of prior argument or physical altercation whatsoever. But as far as getting into the specific details on what he may have said during an interview, I don't want to get too specific. I didn't get too specific in my questioning with our detectives, just because I felt that that might be more appropriate for court. Catherine?
Yeah. Do you know who first called 911? Who first realized that shooting had happened?
It was a family member who had discovered that the crime had occurred.
Someone who was also at the home at the same time?
I believe it was someone who arrived at the home after the fact.
Did he say where he was going?
No, the young man did not.
Has there been a history of calls to the home?
No, sir. As a matter of fact, for what it's worth, the suspect didn't actually live there. He was simply staying there while I believe his parents were at the town.
Any interaction with the police prior to this with this young man?
No, I don't believe he was a resident of the city of Lorraine. Ms. Shade?
Yes. Do you know when he arrived at the victim's house?
I believe he'd been staying there a couple days. Again, it was a temporary thing. It was with a family member while parents were out of town. So I believe he had been there for a day or two at least.
Is he from Cleveland?
No. I believe he's from Lorraine County, just not from Lorraine City.
I was wondering if you could just dive a little deeper on the importance of the technology. Obviously, flock is such a hot topic in so many communities right now.
Sure.
And the fact that you were able to find this teenager in under 30 minutes, like you said.
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking that. So yes, this is a scenario, right? And it's one of the grander cases. A death investigation is always probably, you know, the biggest investigation or one of the biggest investigations we as law enforcement officers can be a part of. Because tragically this event occurred, we were able to use this technology to essentially move forward with this investigation as quickly as we did. I tried to kind of allude a little bit to the idea that I believe we have the best investigators in Ohio. Our Criminal Investigations Bureau is top notch, and I believe that this case would have been solved and that we would have eventually located and or apprehended the suspect. However, I don't find it probable that it would have been this quick without this technology. It is simply a tool that creates that efficiency. And in a case like this, that efficiency can literally mean lives and safety of the public. It's very easy to demonstrate how important that would be in this situation. I should offer that later this day, flock technology was used to identify the suspect in a hit and run accident. It was a single vehicle where it was a hit and run, essentially crashed into property for a business owner, and we were able to make an identification. We're still actually working that case, so I don't have a lot of the details on that one. But again, you may not hear a lot about this technology and how it's used. Obviously, on a grand stage like a homicide investigation, not to in any way glorify or glamorize it, but this is the one that tends to get the clicks. This is the one that tends to get the eyeballs and the interest of the public, and understandably so. But to understand as well, and to couple it with the idea that less than 12 hours later, we used it again to help a business owner recoup some of his losses due to somebody not sticking around and doing the right thing. And I think it's not just about homicides. Hopefully we never have another homicide, right? And because of that, if I were lucky and we never had another homicide, then we would never have an opportunity to explain on such a scale of importance of this technology and its usefulness. But it's not to say that there aren't almost daily examples of how we use this to keep our public safe or how to hold wrongdoers accountable, really.
Back to the homicide, sir, if I may. Did he offer any resistance once he was stopped?
No, not to my knowledge. As far as the specifics with the actual apprehension, the city of North Olmsted sort of led that, contacted us and let us know, hey, he is in custody. Here we are at this location. So because of that, we don't have all of the specifics, but no, he wasn't charged with any kind of resisting or obstructing anything like that from that incident. And as I understand, he was relatively cooperative with investigators as well. Sir?
Can you go into specifics of the family relationship that you were talking about? Is this his grandfather, grandson?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So 16-year-old grandfather, Mr. Lewis was the victim.
And the gun that you said was recovered, was that in the home previously? Did that appear to have belonged to the victim, or do you know where that sort of was sourced from?
So I know a gun was recovered at the scene, at the scene of the homicide. As far as the ownership of that, those are some of the loose ends that we're trying to tie up now.
Okay, so that's still under investigation.
Yes, sir.
Do you know if it returned stolen?
It did not return stolen.
Okay.
That I can tell you, yes.
Okay.
So this was the last flock hit before he was stopped.
Correct.
Does the 11 indicate that that's the 11th flock hit?
No, that is simply a camera numbering system.
Okay.
So in Lorain, we have, I think, 39 cameras, 38 cameras. Camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. This is camera 11 for North Olmsted.
Do you know how many times it was pegged by the
I believe 7 or 8 in a few different agencies as well. So again, being able to utilize this, we didn't even know that this vehicle was in play until we got there after the fact. What we were able to determine, and something that was really helpful for the investigation, I think, that's important to kind of illustrate, I suppose, is that we got there just before 8 o'clock. So we got roughly 7:55, I believe. We were notified that a crime had occurred, that the incident had happened. We got there just before 8 o'clock and gathered some information just after 8 o'clock that this vehicle may be important to this investigation. Immediately, we ran obviously through our dispatch, who did a phenomenal job, I want to point out. Our dispatchers put the vehicle, conducted an inquiry on the vehicle's license plate and found a trajectory. Hey, it hit in this location. It hit in Avon Lake. Now it's hitting in Westlake. Now it's hitting in North Ridgeville. Now it's hitting in North Olmsted. It gives you not only a pathway or the way he or she might be traveling or the vehicle may be traveling, but it also gives you a timeline. If this thing hits on a flock camera just near the east side, whether it's Avon Lake at 7:30, even though we didn't know about the crime until 8 o'clock or 7:55, we're narrowing down this timeline of when this may have occurred, because we're now able to say, okay, if he left and he hit straight at this camera, it would take roughly blank amount of minutes through a Google Maps or some sort of other online use to be able to say, it would take roughly about this much time. So we can pretty much say that we can narrow down that time window big time, rather than when was the last time someone saw this gentleman alive. Now we're talking maybe the day before, right? Or even that evening before, if he spoke to a neighbor, and it makes it really difficult to narrow down. So again, it's valuable on so many senses other than just locating the vehicle and in this case the suspect. It also helps us investigatively say, hey, here, let's crunch this down a little bit and be able to be a little more accurate.
Thank you.
Can you explain, so when you get the plate, you type it into a system, it pings every flock camera that car has?
Whoever we share our cameras with, whoever shares their cameras with us, we can search that network of cameras. Okay, so you grant access to your cameras. Here in the city of Lorraine, we grant cameras access only to Ohio agencies. So there are no federal agencies, there are no agencies outside of the state of Ohio that have access to our cameras. They may still have a flock account. They may still have a flock system. We just don't grant access to agencies outside of the state of Ohio. I should state though, we can see agencies' cameras outside of Ohio. They still share their information with us in many cases. So, but that's how that works. If in this case, North Olmsted, they share their cameras with us. We share ours with North Olmsted as well. And it helps with that network of being able to obviously arrest people suspected of murder or other crimes.
Can the federal government request your flock information and get it, or is that restricted?
I don't think they can. I would assume that they would have to do that through flock, and that would be a question for flock and flock's attorneys. I don't believe so. So that's a different. I would certainly say that it's not instantaneous like this. I can do a search on a license plate, and as soon as I hit enter, I can see where that license plate has hit within the last 30 days, okay? Immediately. And in this case, it does take a moment for it to upload. I mean, it's not instantaneous, but, you know, speaking in law enforcement terms, it's pretty close. For someone to request, you're talking about a subpoena and or a search warrant. Those take hours and hours. I don't know that they would do that because the benefit of this system is to say, here's the car I'm looking for right now. Get cars over there and stop this car. In this situation, right? We're saying, hey, this car may be involved in a homicide. Please get cars there and stop it. It would have done us no good to go take 2 or 3 hours to type up a search warrant and then come back and say, okay, we knew that at 8:15 this car was at that location. Well, 2 hours later, you know, who knows where it could be. So it's a little bit kind of frivolous in a sense.
Thank you, sir.
Just talking about how you wanted the public to see the flock cameras in this scenario, is there a specific message to the residents just about how law enforcement uses the license plate reader cameras and the benefits to them that people should know about? Because there's so many people that have so many negative thoughts about it.
And it's a fair point, absolutely. I would simply say that this is a tool. And it's a tool that can enhance our ability to investigate crimes and to hold people accountable for crimes that they're believed to have committed. It's not the only tool, it's not the only way we can do it, but it's probably one of the best swings. It's one of the best ways that we can keep society as safe as we can by holding people who we believe are responsible for crimes accountable. We do that through arrests, especially in cases where there may be public risk, i.e. murder. This helps us do that better. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that we can't do it. But again, to quote the suspect in this case, He believed that he was going to be caught. He just didn't think it would be that quick. It was that quick, make no mistake, because of the technology used here. And I think that to take it out of the context of, say, a murder, it can be a hit-skip accident. It can be a robbery of a gas station. It can be a burglary of a home. These are used for all those things that keep our residents safe. And again, yeah, I just think it's really important for the public to know.
I guess he kind of hit a little bit on what I was going to ask, but there's been several flock cameras that have been torn down in Lorraine County in the last several weeks, right? My main thing is, and I'm seeing people right now as I'm talking to you say that there's a constitutionality issue with these cameras, but this seems like a great story and a great situation where it worked out positively. Do you think there's a happy medium in between those citizens' concerns and your job?
Well, I think it's important, if there's a constitutionality issue, if we were ever ordered by a court or explained by a licensed attorney that this is not under the Constitution, we wouldn't be using it. I believe there are folks who have concerns, and that's fair, and that's okay. It has not been ruled unconstitutional, and again, we would certainly not use this, nor would we be holding a press conference over the use of it if we believed that using it was illegal. Right?
Yeah.
With that said, there are a lot of lobbyists and folks who seem to maybe discourage the use of this, and I think that's fair. We live in the United States of America. I understand that, and we understand that. We just hope that the public can understand this is what this is used for, right? This is, to use your statement, this is a great example of what this is used for. If we don't want this as the American public, as the Lorraine public, if this is not something we want, then that's a different conversation for a different day, and we'll talk about that. But let's know what it is that we are taking away. Our detectives are still going to do great work. They are great detectives. They're going to do their job, and they're going to do it as best they can. But please be aware that as best they can with flock looks a little bit differently is as best they can without it. And I think that bringing our public in the know of how we use these, of what it looks like. There's no speed on there. You don't see how fast this car is going. There's a lot of misinformation that I think if we can just be clear and transparent, we let those cards fall where they may, and I think the public should be heard. But I think they should know about things like this when they're heard or when they make their statement.
Thank you for answering my question. I know it wasn't the easiest one.
No.
Everybody was dancing around it. I figured I'd bring it up.
And that's the reason we're holding this press conference,
Okay.
right? It's not for the softballs across the plate. It's for things like that. So I appreciate you asking.
Thank you.
Sir?
Just one thing on the use of the cameras. You mentioned only granting access to Ohio agencies. Can you speak to that, just if there are any other safeguards in place with this technology?
What do you mean by safeguards?
Just like different things. Does everybody have access to it in the department? Is it just the
Okay.
detective bureau? Just one other safeguard was the word I was thinking, but just how are these cameras used by the department? Who's access?
So the department uses these for official investigations only. There's policies and there are Ohio laws basically that dictate how we can and cannot use them. Lorraine Police Department employees have access to these. It is dual factor authentication, so it's really, I don't want to say anything's impossible to hack. It's 2026. But with that being said, the security measures to ensure that no outside folks are jumping into our system are being taken. As far as proper use of these go, we have policies. We have not only internal departmental discipline for folks found to be abusing or misusing these, but there are criminal codes that may, and in some cases do apply for folks who have been caught misusing. So there are a lot of safeguards in place. I would say that, is it possible for anybody to misuse something? Sure, any of our equipment for that matter. However, the risk versus reward, you get caught misusing something like this, the consequences are quite severe. So I would just tell you that that's not something, our public trusts us to use technology appropriately, professionally. If any one of us see any of us misusing this, we understand that that is a violation of that trust that the public has placed in us, and we don't take those violations lightly.
Captain Morris, we have seen vandalism in Lorraine County, including in the city of Lorraine, towards flock cameras.
Sure.
Does that hinder your investigative abilities? Has that had an impact at all?
Well, I would tell you this, Catherine, I can't say that it hindered because to the point that I made earlier, our investigators are going to investigate. Whether there's a flock camera there or not, they're gonna work towards finding the whodunit and trying to make sure that, that everything is done appropriately and as quickly and efficiently as possible. With that being said, I would just say, what if this camera right here were vandalized and weren't there? Maybe it goes to the next camera. Maybe there's another camera that it hits. Maybe this gentleman takes the exit off of this highway and perhaps doesn't go past another one, and now it takes a day or two. Maybe this person is worried that they're on the run for a homicide, and who only knows what desperation can do to especially a 16-year-old who knows that he's on the run. I'm thankful this camera wasn't vandalized because it resulted in a suspected murderer being taken off the streets and incapacitated. As far as the other cameras go, I don't know that it necessarily hindered any specific investigations, but it certainly took away, while they were down, the opportunity for us to use any information on those cameras to solve cases. Maybe not a murder, but again, maybe a hit skip, maybe a burglary of a home. These are the ones that happen with a little more consistency, with a little more regularity than homicides do. And boy, I really hope that one of those cameras wasn't needed to be able to make a discovery in those cases.
If I may, sir, just for the record, because I didn't catch it, your name, spell it for me in the whole 9 years?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Captain Jacob Morris. It's Jacob Morris.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I have a question about the original press release. It said that this victim was found in his bed.
That's correct.
Do we think he was sleeping when this occurred, or do we know?
It's kind of hard to know. I mean, obviously we believe he was in his bed, lying down when it took place. Whether or not he was asleep or awake, that's still very much under investigation. Those are some of those loose ends that we try to tie up if we can. Sometimes we're not able to, because it doesn't change what happened necessarily, but we do try to get as much, I guess, of a complete picture as possible, and that's still a little bit under investigation here, or very much so under investigation, I should say.
And did he have a license?
I don't know. I don't know if the juvenile was a licensed driver or not. He was 16, so it's possible.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Well, folks, you're free to stick around if you want and do a little bit of work. I see a lot of laptops and remote connectivity. But again, if you want a copy of this, I can email it to anyone that may want a copy.
Yes, sir.
I'm happy to do that as well. But shy of that, I'll be around. I'm going to go ahead and end the conference.